Hello everybody, welcome to this new episode of Tech Pizza, the podcast, video series and newsletter where we try to make tech a little bit more like pizza. Easy to understand, democratic and fun. This episode is gonna have two news about startups, specifically about Gorillas, who just fired everybody in Italy, and about Uber, which is not a startup anymore, but there have been some leaks about the crazy shady stuff that they were doing back when they were smaller, back when we could call them still a startup. We're also gonna talk about a new research study that shows how AI and doctors together can be more effective than doctors alone or AI alone in diagnosing breast cancer. And last but not least, I have to talk again about Elon Musk. He decided not to buy Twitter anymore. We're going to try to understand if he actually can pull out from this deal or not. Let's get started. The food delivery scale-up Gorillas, the company that made promises of sending groceries to your home in less than 10 minutes, just fired the entirety of their Italian team. It's 540 people that are being sent home. In the end of May, they had already said that they were gonna do a big restructuring. They were gonna cut 300 jobs and they're gonna decide to focus on the 5 different markets that make them the most money. Germany, France, the UK, the Netherlands, and New York. 90% of the revenues came from these 5 markets, and that's why they decided to pull out from other markets like Italy, Spain, and Denmark, for instance. But in the end of May, they didn't give specific ideas of how they were going to pull out of these markets. They said that they were going to fire just 300 people globally, and it seems like what they're trying to do was to find buyers to buy their local businesses. Now, in the specific case of Italy, they couldn't find anybody to buy that business, and so the only thing that they could do was to fire everybody, 540 employees. The company had just raised $1 billion back in October 2021, 1 billion with a B. That's a hell lot of money. But that gives you an idea about what's happening behind the scenes. When they raised this money, they said that their focus was going to move from hyper growth to sustainability, to finding a more profitable business model. And when I lived in Silicon Valley, I understood a little bit how these companies work. So let me tell you what actually this means. You see, startups are all about growth. There's actually a blog post from Paul Graham, the founder of one of the most important startup accelerators in the world, called Y Combinator, called Startups Equals Growth. That's what these companies do. They need to grow. And the way that they do that is through steroids. Steroids means money. So they get money from venture capitalist firms like Sequoia Capital, etc. And they use this money to basically foster their growth even when revenues and actual economics are not supposed to be able to push that growth further. And the hope is that once the company is big enough, then their revenues and their new business model that finally has won against competitors is gonna be sustainable. So the money they're gonna make in the future are gonna justify all the people they hired in the past. When this works, it's great. When it doesn't work, well, you have to fire a lot of people. And this became even worse recently with the advent of SoftBank, which is a venture capital firm from Japan. Their approach has been very weird. Basically, when you have a market that is a kind of a winner-take-all situation, like food delivery, we don't need 250,000 food delivery companies, okay? We need just one, basically. What SoftBank does is it gets in, and they give a hell lot of money to one company. There was one case where they gave more than $200 million to a company that was trying to find dog walkers. So like you find people to walk your dog. $200 million. Crazy, right? So their hypothesis was that by giving a lot of money to one single company, that will scare everybody off and their competitors will basically dissolute and disappear. Well, SoftBank did not invest in Gorillas, but other companies did, following that same kind of approach. Just give a hell lot of money to a company to try to make them beat competitors. When the competitors run out of money, if this company that they invested in is still up, well, then you're gonna make a lot of money. When it works, it's great. When it doesn't, you have cases like this, where all the employees of an entire country, like Italy, 540 people, need to be let go. Now, what I think is that this is not going to be the only case. I think this is going to happen to other companies. And that's unfortunate for the people that decided to work for them and, put blood, sweat, and tears for years to try to get some results. They're going to be completely wiped out from one day to another. The Guardian just got a leak of 124,000 documents related to the old years of Uber. These documents are messages, emails, recordings of meetings from when their CEO was the original founder of the company, Travis Kalanick. And they show all the very sketchy things that Uber was doing to try to get where the company is now. I'm gonna give you 4 different examples of things they did. The first thing that they did was to try to lobby politicians into giving them approval to basically make Uber be legal. Uber was very well aware that it was not legal in the beginning. There are just emails of Uber executives saying, hey, we know we are illegal. And so in order to change that, Uber started to give shares to politicians in different countries like Russia, Italy, even France. There are conversations between Emmanuel Macron and the old CEO of Uber. And these were all to try to manipulate politics into making Uber legal. The second thing that they did was to give hundreds of thousands of dollars to researchers to produce research that was going to give a positive outlook into the effects on the economy of the business model that Uber was pushing forward. The third thing that they did is that it seems like the CEO, Travis Kalanick, was pushing Uber drivers to work even when there were riots in France, for instance, against them. And so the idea of this move was that, and he actually said that, embrace the chaos. So even though that was going to be potentially dangerous for Uber drivers, he wanted people to just go there because that was going to be potentially newsworthy. And number 4, it seems like they had something called a kill switch, which basically means that if the police was going to get into their offices to, look at data and look at what they were doing, because again, it was basically an illegal company, they had a functionality that will shut off that office and disconnect it from all the data of the company. This is obviously illegal because you're stopping police from doing their job. It's not really cool. So now the response of the company for this leak has been pretty weird because they basically said, hey, we ask you not to judge us based on what we did in the past, but on what we're doing now and what we're going to do in the future. Yes, okay, I see the point, but this is very bad. We are talking about corrupting politicians. We are talking about sending Uber drivers in the middle of riots to make the news. So do you think this is enough as an answer or not? And do you think that the means justify the final goal of, powering the gig economy and stuff? Let me know what you think. A new research seems to prove that AI together with doctors is better than doctors alone or AI alone. This research was done by a company called Vara that has been operating in Germany already for years, working together with doctors. And this is how the research worked and how they proved this. They did 3 different tests. One is they gave mammographies, so breast scans, to doctors, and they asked them to rate these breast scans and to see if there was cancer or not. Then they decided to take an AI algorithm and make this AI algorithm take decisions alone. And then in the third case, the AI was gonna rank all these different mammographies, putting them in 3 different classes. One was normal, no cancer. One was with cancer. And one was at risk. And then they sent the ones with risk of cancer and the ones with, this cancer, to doctors. And these doctors were gonna look at them and give the final call. They found out that with this third methodology was 2.6% more accurate than doctors alone or than AI alone. And the interesting thing is that for 63% of these mammographies, the AI said that there's nothing to worry, and it was right. Which means that this could potentially free doctors from a lot of the time that they spend looking at mammographies that are actually okay, and they can focus on the more dangerous cases. This is something that cannot be implemented now because by law in Germany, where this company is testing these tools, doctors need to look at every single scan. It's impossible for them to just let an AI take a final call. We gotta talk about Elon Musk again. Last Friday, his lawyers sent a letter to Twitter saying that Elon Musk is pulling off from the deal. The problem is that he cannot technically do that. He didn't sign just a normal letter. That was a binding legal document that forces him to buy the company. So here are the 3 excuses that he's using to try to pull out of the deal. The first one is that he thinks that Twitter is lying about the number of bots on the platform. But this is probably not gonna hold in court. First of all, because they don't have any proof that the number of bots is more than 5%, which is the number that Twitter has been saying for the last 8 years. This is all based on Elon Elon Musk's feelings. And that's actually what they say in the letter that they sent to Twitter. It's based on Elon's feelings, which I would say it's probably not going to hold in court. The second reason that they're trying to push, this actually makes a little bit more sense, is that Twitter is not giving the information that they are asking. So it's not basically giving the right appropriate information about these spam bots. But here, this is the smart, but also, I will say, a little bit unethical and very annoying tactic that Elon Musk is using. Basically, what he's doing is he's asking information about these spam bots to Twitter. Twitter is answering him, but then he's asking more and more information until at some point he got to ask some pretty weird stuff. He wants to have a daily calculation of the number of spam bots for every day of the past 2 years. Then at some point, Twitter said, well, I cannot give you this information. And so the idea is that he's going to keep asking for more until it's going to be impossible for Twitter to answer. And I mean, at some point, he's going to ask for all the phone numbers of every Twitter user so he can make them a phone call, you know? So also this kind of argument, it's probably not going to hold in court because it doesn't really make sense. And the third reason is that he says that Twitter is not pushing its business forward while they're waiting for the transaction to complete. And that's because a bunch of people quit Twitter. Well, a bunch of people quit Twitter because of what Elon Musk is doing, of all the chaos that he's creating. And that's how I want to kind of close this message. I want you to think about all the chaos that this man is doing with his crazy plan of buying Twitter, which honestly I don't think he has ever wanted to do. So Twitter's shareholders are losing a lot of money because obviously with all this chaos, the Twitter stock went down by a lot. Twitter employees are obviously frustrated. They don't know what the hell is going to happen to the company they work for, so a lot of them are quitting and they're also damaged by Elon Musk. All the people working on this deal, all the lawyers, all the banks, all the people within Twitter that are spending and wasting energies to try to answer Elon Musk, they're just wasting their time. And then let's talk about everything else. Let's talk about Tesla. Tesla stock went down like crazy, also because the CEO of the freaking company is busy pretending to buy social media companies. There's a lot of different people that are being damaged by these, I don't know, this just boredom of the richest man on earth. So, you know what, I try not to talk about this kind of stuff because I don't think it really makes sense. But you read about this everywhere, probably. And what I'm trying to do is to give you some more accurate information so that you can really understand how this guy's manipulating the entire world for apparently no reason whatsoever. Thank you for watching this episode of Tech Pizza. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter already, you should go on tech.pizza and subscribe, and send this video and our website to your friends who may be interested in staying up to date on this crazy world of technology. Otherwise, we're gonna talk again next week. Ciao.